the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell, so you are notified when new videos drop. So this is a review of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Just finished. I did a bit of a video on it last week saying how disgusted I was with it, how absolutely terrible I think it is, and not terrible in terms of its creation, its directing, its lighting, its acting, you know, in the ways that we normally judge a movie or a TV show. I think it was terrible in that it was full-on propaganda, like real full-on propaganda, very, very slick on full on-board propaganda, which I guess I'll go into detail. I'll explain why, not why I believe it is, why it is that, why it absolutely is that, and why I feel it's like very, very, insidious. So they just kind of underlined it with the last episode. Fine, so we're going to get into it. Before we get into it, though, can I ask you guys, can you hit the like button? That would be nice. That would be really nice. Even though I really didn't like this, I would like you to like this. That would be great. Can you hit the share button? Share me around, baby. And, of course, hit that subscribe button. If you're subscribed, make sure you still subscribe. I think we're up to, 15, 20 subscribers YouTube have taken off me in the last 24 hours. You know, they saw my subscribers went up, and they went, nah, not so much of that, Let's take some of them off. So like, share, subscribe, comment is also unbelievably helpful. Thank you very, very much. And you're going to be super fan dabby double dozy. Go check out my Indiegogo. I finally got the raw bit of that last piece of artwork in to end the campaign. So I think we're going to start that last run tomorrow when I'm on a live stream. I got to get a few more bits lined up. I've got to get myself booked on a bunch of shows for the end of campaign. Also got to get stuff. Yeah, listen, I could go into my to-do list all day, but anyway, this is the end is nigh. The end is nigh on the campaign. It's got 2 incredible graphic novels, and of course the For the Male Gaze art cards. 6 cards based on my 12-year-old titillations, which still stay. Yeah, pretty much good today. Party Like It's 1999, that's the Space 99 one. I didn't mention this is a James Bondy one, of course, keeping the British end up. Don't even think it's yes, well, I don't think that's likely. People wouldn't think that. No hanky-panky in the TARDIS. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of hanky-panky in the TARDIS going on. At least for me, in my filthy fan fiction. I'm sensing strong emotions, Captain. Speaking of filthy fan fiction, filthy fan fiction, I think we've all written a chapter or 2 about this. The Slave Lair, the Falsest Female, and 6 cards. Listen, every campaign does better. We'll make more. I'm probably going to do more on my next campaign, which is what I'm waiting to launch, which is why I want to wrap this one up. Also, we hit $8,000. Everybody is going to get this poster. It's A2. It's 18 by 24, I think. If we hit $12,000, everybody gets this one. You can buy them as an add-on now. And then we have this one, Great Balls of Fire. You can go there. And now I got this other beautiful one called Forever Young, which has an aging Fourth Doctor and an aging Sarah Jane at the helm of the TARDIS. I found that quite nice. I found it quite heartwarming and nice. What did I not find heartwarming nice? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, where to start? So, okay, so if black people in America were an underclass that were targeted for assassination by a corrupt patriarchy that wants to keep them an underclass, which actually, I think the reality might actually be that, but in a completely opposite way that say, but yeah, if the the recent BLM protests started to redress this deep injustice, this deep racial injustice that has gone through the core of America. If that was all the case, if that was all true, then was it Falcon and Winter Soldier would be a really, really affirming and great, fantastic show. Right, it would really warm the cockles of your heart. Sadly, that's not the case. Well, actually, not sadly. Very, very happily, that's not the case. I don't think being black is an impediment to virtually anything in the Western world. In America, I don't think being black makes people angry at you. I just don't. I've never really met anybody. The only time, the only time I think the only like a job I think a black person probably couldn't do is play James Bond, right? And that's only because I think the character is so intrinsically white. And what do I mean by intrinsically white? The character James Bond is a very comes from a very old established English family, which were universally white, right? Universally white, and that's the tension of the character. He's part the was it aristocracy. He's part the aristocracy, but he's a very damaged part. His parents have been killed, and he's like lost direction in life. So he's essentially a psychopath, right? A psychopathic killer working for the for the crown, for the British government. But I think in that is. Into that character is intrinsic whiteness, but I think that is really what I think is the only job maybe not open, right? I mean, I can't think of anything else. Why? I mean, but I guess people are upset by that boundary. Maybe I would say it's easier for a black man to play the Queen of England to play James Bond, right? I'm just trying to think of other roles, other things that one skin color would somewhat prohibit. So but honestly, doesn't everyone remember we had a black president twice, and again, it wasn't even anybody went, oh, I'm not sure, can I push through this prejudice and vote for a black? Nobody even considered it for a second being a black. At least nobody I knew, right? Nobody I knew made it an issue whatsoever. And again, I just don't think anybody really does. Now, that's not to say there wasn't racism within America. There was racism throughout the Western world. I think most racism comes from a jarring of the new, right? I think one's skin color is a very, very personal expression of self, and when you see people for the first time, when you're introduced the idea that your skin color isn't universal, as it was in the I think in the 50s. Well, no, obviously earlier that in America, it was more the 50s in the UK. Or when you understand there's other there is a part of the human psyche that goes, that's scary, and I think that's what racism comes from, and I think that essentially just melts away with time. It used to be, I remember in the 80s there was lots of racism against Pakistani people, right? My dad had was a like a delicatessen. And he was at the supplier one time, and getting pallets of stuff for it. And there was a guy, it was like a Pakistani gentleman who had the Pakistani community. They basically came to England in the late 70s, early 80s, and lots of them opened up corner shops. So these little shops that sold like sweets and newspapers. Essentially, that was like the derogatory name was the I can't say it. It's too bad. It's the first part of the word Pakistani. The Pakistani shop. That's what they were called. It was so prolific. But anyway, my dad was in this place, the cash and carry, the supplier, and there was this Pakistani gentleman there also getting there, and this guy came and shouted this racial epithets at him. My dad was like shocked, and this was like the early 80s. It was shocked. It's like, is that normal? Does that happen a lot? He asked. He said, yeah, sometimes it's sad. So yeah, that 100% happens, right? I think that's an expression of human nature, not a particularly good expression of human nature, but it's an expression of human nature. And I think that expression of human nature does die away after a generation or two of just being around each other. Anybody who doesn't like somebody because of their skin color now is weird. I mean, you look at them like they're strange. So I think this false racial tension. The racial tension is genuine, but I think the false narrative that has developed this intense racial tension that we see in America, which I believe is evil, is completely disingenuous and a terrible lie, and bolstered by things like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So let's essentially talk about the point of this show was to give Sam Wilson, Falcon, a new costume. But much the same way the point of WandaVision was to give Scarlet Witch her Scarlet Witch costume. So But the difference between the two is this. On the surface, like, well, I'm talking from a normie's perspective. It's much harder to see the propaganda within this because there's a lot of the normative action movie tropes that go through this and go through it well and go through it slickly. And I wouldn't want to know. Although there are large swathes of it that are quite boring as well, which is the agendarizing. But like it opens up in the first episode. There's this really incredible aerial battle with Falcon and the 2 or 3 helicopters. Very, very well done. The only thing that really, really diminished it, really, I think made it so much smaller, was it came out the same time as Justice League, which was just so huge and so epic. It was, I think, the biggest, hugest, epic, most epic superhero movie I've ever seen. Right? It was superhero movies done to the level of Lord of the Rings. So that really did take that. And also, it was reasonably circumspect about the platforming, which again I think this makes it much more insidious than anything else because it did hide it so much more. So the basic story is you have Falcon and he has a sister as a boat that they came from their parents and it needs to be repaired and they can't afford it. So it doesn't really come out to the end, but this is like more talking about an evil white male patriarchy withholding racial justice, right? There's a form of racial injustice from the evil white male patriarchy as they try and keep black people a subclass, right? And again, I said, that I think that might be happening, but in the opposite way. What I think really is going on with the this is just my opinion. I think the more left wing governments, cities, they do treat black people terribly, in my opinion. They treat them as if they're incapable of being good, decent human beings, which is I don't know. I found it terrible. So there's a lot of entitlements. I think specifically designed to destroy the nuclear family, right? And again, this comes from left-wing policy. It's designed to, fanatically reward people for not having a stable family together, not having a father in the house. And we've seen that, for decades. And the result of that is poverty and crime. Much more higher poverty and crime. And one of the results of that is these left-wing cities, towns, states, whatever, are much more able to control and guarantee the vote of black people. The worst thing that could possibly happen, right? The worst thing that could possibly happen is these minority black people doing well, doing financially well, because when that happens, they start voting right wing as opposed to left wing. That's the worst thing that could happen. So I think that's one of the reasons these policies are in place, and because because black people have been targeted by these policies to make their communities poorer, to make them more dependent, to make them and by extension increase crime with them. There are a lot more policing and. Is it disproportionately high? Actually, I don't even think it is. I think even though that the crime, again, going by the FBI statistics, I'm not making this up. And I want to be really clear here. I'm not saying there's anything intrinsic in your skin color that makes you more have a greater propensity for crime. I'm saying that if your community is dependent on entitlements that tear apart a nuclear family, there will be more crime. That's my premise, right? And the proof of that is there is more crime, so there is more policing. However, I still believe, and I never have these statistics off the top of my head, that it's not a disproportionately high number of black people being killed by the police. I think it's. I think still, even though the majority of crime is committed by black people, I think the majority of people killed by the police is white people. I believe that. I believe that statistic. If it's not, please. I'm happy to be corrected. I'm genuinely happy to be corrected. So we got that going on. So that's one of the things that's feeding into this show. Another thing feeding into this show is the moral bankruptcy of the people making it. The people like Disney. Who have no virtue whatsoever, and so they feel kind of bad about themselves. So this is a virtue they can get behind. This is a fight they can get behind because it lines up with them politically. And again, the fact that it's not true and causing incredible misery and I would say the destruction of the United States. And honestly, if the United States goes down, it's going to be sort of like the Titanic going down. It's in more ways than one, but it will take down the rest of the world with it, right? It's just by the subdued, by the force, and that's why I believe it to be evil. I believe it evil because it's slickly done propaganda. And again, we really saw this all the way through. So okay, the basic idea is this. In Infinity War, Thanos did the snap, drink, and half the world vanished, half the universe vanished. And then 5 years went by. 5 years went by, and half the houses were empty, essentially. So a bunch of people went to move into those houses. Then in was it not Infinity War, Endgame? Tony Stark snapped and brought everybody back. Now, really, what they did wrong there is not really think it through. I mean, when I not Tony Stark, I'm talking about Disney, because now you have all these displaced people. You have. Yeah, for 5 years they've been living in a house, and then suddenly the real owners turn up and say, "What's going on? What are you doing? Why are you in my house?" So you have you have this real genuine conflict because it wasn't really thought through properly. What I think they should have done is have Tony Stark snap and rebuild reality with everybody back in it, but without that 5 years, and they would have avoided this whole insane problem that they've. That they made for themselves, right? They would have. So in the story we have these big group of people who are fighting for the oppressed underclass, who came and took over people's houses and now been kicked out, and now they're all refugees, and they've managed to get super soldier serum, right? And there's about 10 super soldiers now. So we got that going on. We've also got Falcon gave up the shield, gave up the Captain America shield that he gave him at the end of Endgame, saying no, it's not for me, and he wanted to be in the Smithsonian. And then at the end of the first episode, it turns out they said no, we need a new Captain America, and they gave it to another guy, another very white guy, right? A very, very white guy. Who then, I thought they're going to portray him as a bad guy. Again, this is why it's good propaganda. This is why it's powerful propaganda. Because they actually made him, and I wasn't sure if this was the intention, but they made him a lot more likable than both Bucky and Falcon. By the way, Bucky virtually nondescript and not in it. Although every time I saw it, I saw him, I thought, he could play Luke Skywalker. Yeah, basically my only thought. Doesn't really do much. He's moping around a bit because he's killed a bunch of people as a Winter Soldier, and then he goes on this mission with Falcon to go after they called the Flag Smashers. There is again lots of good action scenes in the second episode. Was it Falcon and Winter Soldier? They confront the Flag Smashers in a high speed chase. They're fighting on top of vehicles, and all of a sudden the new Captain America shows up, and he's a really good guy, right? He's a really good guy. Somebody you really empathize with, and it's again great action scene, and he seems to be being really nice, trying to pull everybody together all the way through it. So I thought that was clever. But again, we reach a point by the end of episode 4 or 5. By then, Bucky's introduced Falcon to the black Captain America from the 1950s that fought the Soviets, which I do think is a great idea. I think it's a great idea. But he said it was basically kept prisoner for 30 years. So they can experiment and work out why the super soldier serum worked on him to no avail, from what I can understand. But over and over again, the underlying message is this country would never accept a black Captain America. And I'm struggling to go, why? Why does anybody believe that? Why do you think I don't think someone's skin color is an impediment to anything. Again, I struggled, and the only job I can think of that might be problematic is James Bond. That's really it. And they're probably going to make a black James Bond no matter anyway. But that's really, really the only thing I can think of. I just don't know anybody Who would have a problem with it? But yeah, but that's the fiction that this is selling, and that fiction is evil, and that fiction is having a terrible result on not just America, on the entire world, making everybody more miserable. I mean, listen, it was used initially to unseat a president that people really don't like a lot, or the people in Hollywood really didn't like a lot. But now it's taken on a life of its own. I doubt it's going to go down easily. So. But so towards the end of this, I think is it the one from last episode, or two from last? Yeah, no, it's from the two from last episode. We have Captain America, the new Captain America, Falcon, and Bucky. They're going after these bad guys, the Flag Smashers, and new Captain America's colleague friend. Name escapes me. Who's also a black guy. So I don't know what to tell you. You're like, right? Hasn't anybody noticing this stuff? It was also a black guy gets killed, and by this time, these Flag Smashers are international terrorists. They've murdered, I think, dozens or hundreds of people. So he starts chasing one down. He becomes filled with rage and starts chasing down the criminal, right? The criminal, and he kills the criminal using the shield. And this is intolerable. This is the worst thing ever. It seemed like a legal, justified killing to me at that time. But, Captain America's trouble was he was white. He's a white male. And this is really shown up by, we have these warrior women from Wakanda show up. In the previous episode of that episode, and thereafter, this other guy, Baron Zemo, who nothing matters. Doesn't matter. And they're like, we don't have jurisdiction. They said, we have jurisdiction wherever we walk. I'm like, what? So that means you can kill anybody? But it's good. They're black women, so that's okay. White men, not okay. So then, in the one from last episode, we have Bucky and Falcon. They take on the new Captain America, and they fight him because he's done this intolerable crime of killing a criminal, killing an international terrorist in the midst of trying to murder, dozens or hundreds of people. Honestly, to me, it was a perfect metaphor for all these different forces taking down the United States of America. And not just the United States of America, the ideal of the United States of America. The ideal, which, nobody ever lives up to their ideals, but having lofty ideals is fantastic. And the ideal of there being, liberty and justice for all. Of there being a government by the people, for the people. I did think it's such an intrinsic good that the world hadn't really seen before. It was, breathtaking to see that taken down. And we're seeing it taken down by a combination of idiocy and false ideologies, right? So anyway, but he's again because they're very mad at him. He's stripped of his rank and he's no longer Captain America. So there's no Captain America now, and Falcon, he has his wings ripped off during that fight, so he gets a new costume from I think Wakanda, and now he's in the Captain America costume. He is not been given the mantle of Captain America. He's taken the mantle of Captain America for himself. And look, one of my big problems here is the execution isn't that great. The costume doesn't look good. The costume just doesn't look that good on him. His Falcon costume looked a lot better, and I kind of like the idea of Captain America being a super soldier. I think that's really quite important to the character. I mean, the original Steve Rogers character was just a really good person who was weak, who was physically weak, but had the courage of a lion, right? And would never back down because he believed in right and wrong. And then he was given this unbelievable power, right? Which he ended up sacrificing for. That's a real story. That's an incredible story. This so Captain America without superpowers, although he does also have superpowers because the Falcon costume gives him like flight and things like that, and he does seem to have superpowers in his many brawls throughout it. So they take out these flag smashers, and then Captain America, the new Captain America, the new Black Captain America. And at the time when he's revealed as Captain America, there's a crowd of people going, "Look at the Falcon!" No, the Falcon, that's Captain America. And that crowd is all black people, as far as I remember. Why couldn't it have been a mixed crowd? And why couldn't it have been a mixed crowd? Go, yay, the new Captain America! Because skin color is not an impediment to anything in the Western world. It just isn't. Again, other than James Bond, and it's not even going to be an impediment to that. Fine. But he gives this ridiculous speech to these senators that he was saving, basically saying, and this is the idiocy, the absolute idiocy that this is coming from. The reason empires go down, which is what we're watching, the reason empires fall is because you finally reach a generation so entitled, so used to the luxury that they've got, that they just think it's normal. They just think that. So, and that's really, really represented in that closing speech where he talks about the displaced people. Said, "You can feed 1 billion people with a stroke of a pen." Yeah, he basically was saying that we have unlimited resources to look after everybody, and we shouldn't be allocating resources by nationalistic lines, and there should be no form of meritocracy, right? There should be no form of borders should be open. People shouldn't have to wait to become citizens. That's and it's just and insanity, because it just doesn't work that way. It makes the idiots, the super rich people in Hollywood feel good about themselves, and that's why this exists. It's so these vacuous, empty, evil people can feel good about themselves, and they're feeling good about themselves by destroying the land that they're standing on. That's and I understand. Look, it's just a stupid TV show on a streaming service. How is this destroying the world? I think it actually is, right? I think these things matter. I think culture matters, and I think the people subverting culture also agree with me that it matters, which is why they do it, which is why they're doing it. So that's basically my review of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Not a recommend. Not a recommend. Look, they introduced a few new villains. They got Julia Louis-Dreyfus as, I don't know, some arms dealer, something or other, who's now got the old new Captain America. He ends up being US agent at the end of it, same costume, just in black. And then Sharon Carter, Agent Carter's daughter or granddaughter, who was had a warrant for her arrest, was given a pardon and brought back to work at S.H.I.E.L.D., I think. I'm not sure, but it's revealed at the end that she's a big villain. She is the what's it called again? The procurer, or so I can't. The power broker, I think it's called. And they're setting her up to be a reasonably large villain in the MCU moving forward, which I don't care about. Actually, I really don't care about the MCU moving forward. I listen, for me, it's not something I grew up with as a kid. I didn't really read Marvel comics. I was aware of them, but didn't really read Marvel comics as a kid. I got into Marvel comics with the MCU, so it's about 15, 20 years old for me. I was at the Comic-Con where they debuted the first it was an Iron Man trailer, and back in those days, you didn't have to line up to get anywhere, right? You just Hall 8. I was in Hall 8, right? You just wandered in and sat down and watched the trailer. And I think Jon Favreau was there, and that blew me away, right? And I really loved it, but it's not something that's been part of my life since a kid. So it's not something that's a wrench for me to go, I don't really care about. I have a genre media channel, so I will report on it. Loki looks pretty good to me, but who knows what they're going to do? It seems to me it's going to be female Loki. That sort of thing. But Loki looks like it's going to be quite fun. And then my subscription to Disney Plus can go on hold, maybe permanently. Let's find out when the Book of Boba Fett comes out, which I'm not looking forward to at all, really at all. So there you go. As I said, my review of the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Not a review. I would watch the Falcon and the Winter Snowman. That's probably the gay porn version. Bye, Sheila Beck and the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you are notified when new videos drop.